Well, good morning. There we are. Good morning. Welcome to the City of Marque Fire Association Collective Bargaining Agenda of June 16th, 2025. Notice is hereby given that the City of Lamarck, Texas and the Lamarck Professional Firefighter Local 3282 will conduct a meeting on June 16th, 2025, beginning at 11 a.m. in council chambers at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarck, Texas, in accordance with section I'm sorry, 1109 B by route in accordance with section 551.127B of the Texas Local Government Code. The presiding officer and a quorum intend to be and will be physically present at 1109 B Bayou Road, Lamarck, Texas. This location is open to the public and the meeting will be broadcast at this location on channel 16 and via YouTube. All representatives will meet for the purposes of the following agenda. Calling the meeting to order. Here we are. Roll call, and I'll start on your side.
Cody Chandler, President, Local 3282.
Isaiah Reyes, Vice President, Local 3282.
Jody Martinez, member of 3282.
David Merriman, Fire Chief, City of Lamarck.
KB Pritchett, City Manager, City of Lamarck. And online, I believe we have our City Attorney, Mr. Gus Knable.
Hi, how's it going?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
At this time, I will take the pleasure in saying our invocation. Mr. Reyes, will you lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance, please? I'm going to pray first. So if you could stand. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for the ability to continue to serve our community in multifaceted ways to bring a better, safer community. We pray today that we have continuation of good conversation as well as an understanding for the betterment of our Lamarck Fire Department and our city as a whole. And we do this out of a place of unity, and we do this out of a place of understanding and peace. In all things we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which is the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, item 4, citizens participation, limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments from the public will be heard at this time. Any person with city-related business who has signed up may speak to council, limited to 3 minutes. If wishing to speak, give the mayor or presiding officer your full legal name and the item you wish to speak about. In compliance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed, and personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during the normal business hours. Press *6 to mute or unmute if you are participating by telephone. Press the unmute button if attending via Zoom on a smartphone, tablet, or computer, or stand if attending in person, and the mayor will call or presiding officer will call on you in turn. Is there anyone online wishing to speak at this time? Again, calling for anyone online wishing to speak for citizen participation at this time. Hearing none, we will move on to in person. Is there any person in the room wishing to speak citizen participation at this time? Hearing none, we will move forward. Item 5, new business. Items presented for discussion and possible action. Item 5.1. Negotiating economic and non-economic terms of the fire collective bargaining agreement. Good morning. We are back at it again. No white vans, but we are back at it again. There are a number of things that we have discussed, and again, we are a bit ahead of the curve, gentlemen, because you were prepared in our first meeting, and I continuously thank you for that as we our introductory meeting rather. And so I thank y'all for that as we continuously move forward in a timely manner, not only for local 3282, but for the city as a whole. For us, as we are heading into our budget season for the city of Lamarck at this time, it is putting our best step forward to make sure that we have all of this squared away when we are referring to how we move forward. There were a number of things that we have talked about, and obviously we had our last meeting, which was the discussion of some of the items that Local 3282 had in presentation. Chief Merriman and I, Chief Yardley and I, as well as our human resources, Ms. Hallbrook, and our new Deputy City Manager, Miss Amy Miller, have discussed. There are a few items when it comes to these asks that we got some clarification on last time. With studying this, I will fully admit that everybody on that side of the table probably has this memorized and known a whole lot better. And so just a few other things. One of the things that we talked about is the instructor cert pay not being compounded, as well as the officer cert pay non-compounded. There was initially, and this is, I'm going to dive in just with one or two questions that I have, and then I'd like to open up the table for discussion. I do have one item. If there's nothing necessarily that y'all want to start with discussion, that I would again like to continue to flesh out, not to beat a dead horse, but that being the 4896 schedule. The first clarifying question that I have is in reference to packet 1, page 15 and 16, the hazmat certification pay. That is a new certification. Is it not? Or it would be? So I just wanted to confirm, like I did with the others, the difference between hazmat technician and the hazmat IC, which is incident commander. Those are not compounded as well. So if you are a technician and then you move to incident commander, it's not 250, it's 150.
So it's two different certs. So hazmat tech is a technician level.
Mhm.
Pretty much you're trained to be able to perform hazmat duties, to where a hazmat incident commander has hazmat capabilities, but is also trained to the position to run a command of a hazmat scene.
Absolutely.
Because it's completely different.
But to be the commander, you have to be a technician first.
No,
Okay, so they're two different
they're two
certifications.
completely different certs.
So if somebody was a hazmat tech and a hazmat incident commander in this model, that would be a 250
Yes, sir.
per month. Is it? It's per month?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
250 per month
Correct.
for that.
Correct.
Another clarifying question that I have, and this may be more for chief than it is y'all, but we are not currently have a hazmat team for the Lamarque Fire Department, do we, chief?
We do not.
Thank you for that clarification. I was reading it in the packet, and that was part of our discussion is certifications of which ones are interchangeable. Obviously, if you're an officer 3 or an officer 2, like you are, Mr. Reyes, that you would have been a officer 1 prior to.
Yes, sir.
Just asking for clarification because the way that it read in the packet is they were independent of each other.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other that I had as far as, I think clarification was, for reference, anyone referring to the printed out 2025 local 3282 negotiations Lamarque packet asks on page 2, where it says page 19, incident command safety cert pay $50. I believe we came to the understanding, and it is in the digital copy, but this printed, the incident command safety cert pay should be incident safety officer.
Yes, sir.
Just to confirm.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
The other item that I had would have been on the first page of packet one summary. And that is going to be the under page 2 to 3 investigator cert pay, the fire marshal's pay of $50. Chief Merriman informed me that that is a newer certification from TCFP in Texas for fire marshal's office. What we were discussing, and I guess my question or my ask is, was that during the current life of the negotiation contract that was put into place? And obviously I know it's a requirement now, but it not being included in really in the previous. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Well, let me just, I guess, piggyback off that, and that's referring to page 4, page 5 and 6 about the T-code for that fire marshal's office. Those are all T-code certified individuals. Currently it is a 2-person department. I guess it would be a 3-person department because based on charter, the chief would be the fire marshal who is T-code certified, would also include Lamarque Fire Department Captain and Fire Marshal Briggs, as well as Hazel Grove.
We also have we have 2 engineers that have their T-code certification.
But they are not currently
in the fire marshal's office.
Yeah,
correct?
and that's the distinction that I wanted to make, to whereas someone can, pardon me, someone can have a T-code certification and be of value to Lamarque Fire Department, but they would not be currently in their regular line of duty in the fire marshal's office. Okay.
We actually have 3, 2 engineers and a senior firefighter.
Okay.
Those guys help the fire marshal's office pick up slack on any type of arson investigation that the fire marshal's office may need assistance for. And also they help with all of the occupant safety inspections. And there's a multifaceted thing that those guys do while they're on shift, but they are not assigned to, their primary duties are not assigned to the fire marshal's office.
I guess in that reasoning, is that something that they do while on shift because of being T-code certified, or is that just independent of them helping the fire marshal's office? What, I guess, to rephrase my question, is that something that Reyes could do that if one of them were unable, such as firefighter Mon, or I guess now engineer. Now he is T-code certified, but is that something that the regular shift can do, or is that dependent on that T-code certification?
The only thing that is dependent on the T-code certification is the assistance with arson investigations
Okay.
and criminal investigations.
Okay.
If, as far as the safety inspections and occupancy inspections, those can be assisted through anybody on shift that has a basic fire inspector as well.
Perfect.
The arson investigation is the one thing that Captain Reyes could not assist with.
Sure. Unless he were to obtain.
Correct.
So, I guess to say that in clarification, I do believe that we discussed this a bit last time, but I've slept since then. And so I want to make sure for clarity, but moving on right after that, because of what you just said there, Chief, to where it says page 7, add 2 hours overtime for investigators that are on call over the weekend. Those are for arson investigators?
Correct.
Okay.
And that is to, speaking as the gentleman that was on call 24/7, 365 from about 2014 till 2021.
Okay.
That's to allow the fire marshal's guys to take some time off.
And I guess whereas we discussed that in the language on page 7, paragraph 2, requesting 2 hours of overtime pay for any on-call investigator assigned over a weekend, regardless of whether they respond to an incident. It seems reasonable accommodation for any loss of family time, vacation plans, out-of-town event, and all rearranged in yearly schedule. I don't know if the city attorney would necessarily pick and choose that a bit, but I would like to make the distinction for arson investigators in the language. Because if that's what we're assuming that it means, I don't want to assume because of it saying any on-call investigator. There are additional types of investigators other than an arson investigator, correct?
The only people that we have, I would agree that we should make the distinction. The only people that we have on call are arson investigators.
Okay.
You-
And I have in my notes here, because of what that is the cause of origin in regards to that. So obviously I understand it. I just, when it says any versus any arson on-call investigators, I think that's just a housekeeping item that I would like to be seen in there. It's not really going to change much because of our understanding of what we assume it means. Again, those were just my questions. I try to do my homework and read through what you give me. I have a few other questions, but when it comes to really the asks as a whole, I would like, with y'all's grace, to come back to packet 1, 2, and 3 and go ahead and move to packet 4. It has been given to us this morning, the printouts of where we are at currently for Kelly days for overtime last fiscal year, and then where we are currently standing for this fiscal year. And I can adjust that, or I'm sorry, I can read that aloud as it sees fit, and we will provide the breakdown online as well. So I thank y'all for preparing this and handing this over. Obviously, packet 4 is a change from a 9-day rotation to a 48-96 schedule. Again, your local 3282 was gracious enough to provide us the feasibility report for that 48-96 schedule. We've had some lengthy discussions as well as discussions here at the negotiation table when it comes to recruitment, when it comes to retention, when it comes to obviously the overall operational guidelines as it pertains to the Lamarque Fire Department in the event of switching to a 48-96. For the public, anyone listening in or listening back, one of the biggest distinctions is that this is more and more becoming the industry standard
Yes.
for firefighters around. And it's also obviously current understanding about the flexibility of a 48-96 when it comes to frankly, work-life balance, when it comes to mental health load, when it comes to operational oversight and control, and all of the above. And both in the 48-96 as well as in our discussions, both in the 48-96 feasibility report, as well as in our discussions, and where we left off in our last meeting was this idea of the elimination of Kelly days. The elimination of Kelly days due to obviously shift change, schedule change, operational change when it comes to an ever-growing fire department, to a city that is growing while we sit here. And so, but I did want to spend some time talking about, because one of the questions to myself and the chief, as well as to y'all at the table at the end of last meeting, came from Mayor Bell, and the idea of the number of days, the number of hours worked being covered for those Kelly days, and a breakdown at the firefighter level, the engineer level, and the captain level. And again, I thank y'all for providing what sits before us today. Initially, I would like to point out that in the fiscal year of October 1st, 2023 to October 1st, 2024, the breakdown for firefighters be 105 days, totaling 1,260 hours at a total cost of, and Chief, I know I need to put the asterisk and the caveat that this was taken at the
Base pay.
at base pay.
Base
Thank you. And the
To expound on that, if a 3-year firefighter worked, I didn't calculate that. I calculated the lowest one, knowing that the number would be higher. Our STW system doesn't allow me to distinguish between who worked which one.
sure.
And it also,
Thank God we're spending all that money for a new system then.
the new system will probably, I'm hoping the new system is more user friendly.
Sure. Well, with this breakdown, that's a cost of just shy of 41,000 for engineers. It's 12 days, 144 hours, at just over 6,500. Captains being 38 days, 456 hours is just north of $22,654. Total being 1,860 hours, and the total amount of $70,082.01 of that fiscal year. And then where we are currently of October 1st, 2024 to present time, we're looking at at the firefighter level, the total of 54 days, 648 hours, and the total amount of $21,046.72. Engineers, 2 days, 24 hours, 1,083.96. Captains at 25 days, 300 hours, $14,904, meaning that the total hours are where we are at present time, 972 hours in the amount of $37,034.68. Yes, sir.
There is one other caveat on the engineer.
It's just about to ask. You
We
read
have
my
had
mind.
until June 1st, we only had one in-grade engineer. So that number will be different
Yes, sir. Thank you for that distinction.
for both. And even in last year, we did not have full staffing of engineers. We had,
What was your total amount of engineers last year, Chief?
we had three on the books and 2 with one being a random step-up person.
Okay.
So that would have been could have been a 3-year firefighter or a 2-year firefighter or a 5-year firefighter, depending on the staffing that day.
But that just to confirm, that step up engineer last fiscal year was rotated.
Yes.
Okay. 3 positions on the books. And your current engineer positions are how many?
6. The city's council last fiscal year budgeted for this fiscal year in halfway through the year to increase our staffing by adding 3 engineers. So we now have 6, 1 for each engine on each shift.
Have, and please elaborate as you see fit, has your union members as the Marque Fire Department employees seen a difference, and what has the difference been when it comes to one engineer per, is it it's one engineer per station per shift, is it not?
So, one of the things by adding those engineers, it has taken the workload off of the captains. When it comes to projects that are handed down or, just overall, what's the word? Overall of, maintaining the shift. The engineers are able to help. If a firefighter has a problem, they can go to the engineer first, and then if the engineer can't solve it, bring it up to the captain. It's really helped too on scenes, fire scenes, of having people that is their sole job, that are trained, certified as engineers. That's their sole job. We don't have to worry about putting a firefighter who may not be comfortable or may not want to do that job, but they were being forced at the time to do it because that's what we had. Now we have people, that's their full-time job. The engines and vehicles and equipment are being better taken care of now because you have one person who is solely in charge of that versus it's getting switched out every day to someone new.
So pretty much, there's consistency, right? So you have 3 people that drive those trucks that for the rest of the year, right? Those 3 people are able to communicate with each other. When they get off a shift, they talk to the same person. So it's like there's nothing lost in the cracks to where before this person
Like
stepped
bald
in-
tires?
Yeah, like this person, this person steps up, this person steps up. There was no consistency, so now you have 3 people that are designated, to that truck.
Correct. Well, and and it,
I think an overall sense is positive.
they have, yeah, I mean, things like that have to happen. I was more so laughing at the fact of, well, I don't have to explain to y'all the idea of heavies right now and the equipment and all of the above, but you are correct. It's much better that we are checking these things and we know about it, rather than having a blowout, responding to a structure fire or a vehicle fire, or even a, God forbid, fatality accident on the highway. That's not the time to have a blowout on one of our engines. And so, I understand that for sure. The idea that, and this is, again, not wanting to assume, but those engineers in the permanent position have checklists that they would be responsible for on their shift, when they begin their shift, when they, through the duration of their shift, at the end of their shift, when they pass it on to the next engineer coming on, to have those discussions. Hey, we noticed, this needs some grease, we put it on there. But just keep an eye on it for the sake of, you don't want to be between a rock and a hard place. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I will say that those Passover lists have actually gotten larger. The engineers having had some time to come up, they're like, hey, we need to add this to that list. So to whereas it was just getting passed down by a step up on the bare minimum list that we had in the system, our engineers are taking some pride and ownership in their vehicles and like, hey, we need to make sure we keep an eye on this, this, and this, as well as what we always have. So they've actually become a little more efficient. Overall command staff from the field side has become a whole lot more efficient on reporting some of the things that needed to be done and finding things that have been overlooked. Like it's like Kevin Martinez said, it's a growing pain, and there's more maintenance being done because things that got overlooked are not getting overlooked anymore.
Sure.
I think to answer your question, actually, it's been a pretty positive impact. It's been a very positive impact for the engineers solely because it upped their staff.
Sure.
We've earned medical calls. We got a whole additional, very capable, very skilled, very trained person, anywhere from the advanced level to the paramedic level, that jump in there, and they also relieve themselves from that truck for a few minutes if it's critical to help that crew out. while the captains pick up and drive that truck
Mhm.
to either go pick them up or bring them to the station. So it's a very big positive impact is all around, not just our maintenance, our trucks, but our patients and citizens as well.
Thank you. Absolutely. There was, Chief, you alluded to the idea of kind of fine tuning that when you have someone stepping into the aspect of the full-time position, the checklist being, you know, a little bit well, struggling to find the professional term, but you've tightened up when it comes to those engineers and being able to do that from an operational standpoint. The fire chief did point out about the aspect of changing those checklists because you have somebody who is in the mix on a regular basis. And so whereas that is obviously ever growing when it comes to making improvements over time, if additions have been made in those aspects. I wanted to, again, I like to just kind of put it all on the table and, you know, we're all gentlemen here, so we can have the discussion when it comes to these things. But part of even understanding the flow of administration to your union members on a regular basis, one of the questions and discussions that Chief Merriman and I have had in that is how do we do more of that? And obviously, I think everybody is here for an amicable contract as we move forward and the longevity of not only 3282, but the Lamarque Fire Department for many decades to come. But one of the things that in our discussion was this idea of the assignment of work, those processes of performing those duties, as well as effectiveness and efficiency across the department. And so with that, I think that that's good news, but also just when it comes to, you know, and I'm gonna butcher it because y'all live, eat, and breathe this every day, but when it comes to the responsibilities, not only of the trucks, but the equipment, the cleanliness of the station, the duties of all of those things are things that, whereas they're not a problem, let me make that distinction, but it's the ever approving upon ourselves, right? And as you three are representatives of local 3282, but also employees of the Lamarque Fire Department, you're better today than you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I want to make sure that we are all on the same page, which I know that we are, but to make this distinction that we're building something that will last beyond all of us, right? And so when it comes to SOGs, when it comes to all of those aspects that we are that we have that combined effort, right? Your people are going to see things that administration may not, and vice versa. And so when we look at those as a whole, I think that is a good place where we are at for as far as operations. I believe the fire department employees as well as 3282 members and administration have that kind of back and forth conversation to talk about, hey, what are we going to do in 3 months from now? What are we going to do from 3 years from now? And what are we going to do 3 chiefs from now? And, you know, I just, again, maintaining that for the course of history, I think is really our responsibility to the citizen and our responsibility to your people to make sure that everybody goes home safe. So thank you. We did discuss as far as the Kelly days worked for overtime. There was some distinctions, and I know that Chief, you said about STW about not being able to look at the specific aspects of even when people work a Kelly day, right? Chandler, you had pointed out that for quite some time you have always worked a Kelly day
Yeah.
because of short staffing, because of things like that. And whereas we can't make those distinctions, the idea of the feasibility report would remove that as a whole. How do you foresee that still balancing the workload? And this is open for discussion, but how do you see that continuously balancing the workload of all three shifts of the fire department going under 4896?
So going under the 4896, so one, we're gonna get rid of the Kelly days, right? So now that means, let's look at last year, we spent $70,000 last year paying people to work because we were understaffed,
Mhm.
because it's mandatory that that person had to take off, or if we can, if we don't have the staffing, they have to work it.
Mhm.
So one, we're gonna save you $70,000 by eliminating that. Two, going to a 4896, that puts the firefighters, the captains, the engineers, 2 days on that truck, right? Which means your first day you come in, you do your heavy check off, right? You run all your tools, you check all your fluids and stuff like that. Your second day,
I'm sorry, how long does that normally take? When you come in on a
so
shift?
our shift change is at 7. I get here between 6:15 and 6:30. My engineer is usually here by 6 o'clock just because of where he lives.
Mhm.
And we usually start checking that truck off at 6:30, 6:45.
Mhm.
We do a quick briefing with the off-coming shift, and then we're checking that truck off from between 6:45 to almost 8 o'clock. That's running every tool, running every air pack, raising the cab, checking all the fluids, checking all the tires, running the pumps, making the pumps sure the pumps are pumping, looking at any leaks or anything that we have. Going to a 4896, your first day, you're going to do that heavy check off that I just described,
Mhm.
where you're running all your tools. Your second day, you don't have to run all your tools again because you just checked them
Under
off
the 4896?
under the
Okay.
4896.
But effectively, it would be safe to say, again, because I'm trying to think of if you catch a late call, if you, all of those aspects. So it may not happen right at 7 o'clock or 6:30,
Yeah.
as you said. It could, somebody could be coming back. In that, would it be safe to say anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half to do something like that at shift change?
Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to understand, because if I do the math, right, on second day, you're not having to take that full hour and a half to do that
Exactly.
under the 4896. That would give
So-
you another hour and a half when it came to either training or whatever
Your
else.
second day is basically, you have to check your air packs. That's a requirement. They have to be checked every day.
Okay,
So you're gonna check your air packs and you're gonna check your pump. You definitely want to make sure your pump's working. Now, your small tools, if you want to run them because you ran them the day before on a fire just to make sure, hey, they're fine, they're good, you can. But the second day, that cuts down on your small tool maintenance that you're going to have to do because you checked it off the first day. That's less wear and tear on this equipment that we have. That's less money that we're going to have to spend in the long run of, hey, I have to send this chainsaw out for repair, or I have to repair my power plant for my hydraulic tools because we run it every day. Right now, under the current system we have, every day it gets a full check off because every day you're rotating crews every single day.
when you do something like that, saws, for instance, you may not use those every day. You check them every day, and I get that. Is that check to start, or you go and cut something?
It's start, you have to do, with the diamond blades, you have to put them on some type of concrete or metal just to keep the blade sharp.
Okay,
So you're running them.
sure.
Your hydraulic tools, you're hooking up, making sure they open, close, making sure there's no leaks in your hose lines, stuff like that. On the 4896, all that gets done the first day. So that's less wear and tear on your tools from having to run them every day. Less maintenance in the long run.
Sure. I'm sorry,
The
Kevin.
biggest thing though, one of the benefits I think is the biggest is right now we lose a person every single day. So,
You're talking about benefits of the 4896?
yes. So
Okay,
every day, yeah, eliminating the Kelly day, we get that person back. Right now, there is always somebody off every single day. no matter what. And even if we up the staff, we're still gonna lose a person every single day.
And 2 shifts out of every month, you're losing 2 people.
You will lose 2 people
Why is that?
because, yeah, because there's a kid.
As of right now, because one, we upgraded the engineer position, which freed up a firefighter slot. So now we are at 10 a shift. Well, now we had to, I'm sorry, 11 a shift. So certain shifts that have 11, they have 2 people that have the same Kelly day. So one is off in the morning, one is off at night. So technically you have one person gone the whole day. Because they have to take that 12 hours off. That's mandatory, not including if someone's off on vacation or out sick.
So if we get that person back, say, firefighter Y takes off for some reason, sick or vacation time, we have that extra person that's there to not cause overtime. But right now, like I said, there's always somebody out, and that's why we have this issue with overtime here. And this is, if I'm correct, this is the list of the people that work their overtime. This isn't the list of
People who took it.
that people that worked it for them because they took it off for Kelly Holiday. So this number is probably a lot bigger.
So I'll be the first to tell you, I was one of the ones in the big vote that voted no for the 4896, but doing enough research and listen, these guys really convinced me differently now. You spoke about efficiency earlier. And so for instance, this morning you mentioned the truck, engine 1. Captain Reyes calls me, I'm at home. I'm telling him what I did yesterday, where we're going, what we're doing. He's going, getting it done today. It may come back, it may not. I'll come back tomorrow. I'll figure it out from there. If you have 2 whole days to work on one truck, get it there and get it back and get it going. I mean, that's,
Not to mention.
you want to find your production and the cracks, that's that.
For sure. And I would say not to mention obviously, I've worked with all 3 of you for a number of years now and know what type of cloth that you're cut from and what I have seen throughout the Lamarque Fire Department. But the intent behind even this switch, is it not, is when you're off, so that you are not talking to Captain Reyes at breakfast time, but rather spending it with your family, however you define it.
And that's the problem. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and I just think of it twofold when it comes to that, is because if we are efficient at the change, or if we are efficient at checklists, or if we're efficient when it comes to what is our standard operating, rather than, oh man, I didn't ask, and now I need to know this information for the day. And that may be the case, that it worked, right? But let's say you had a full day and you caught a lot of calls, you were responding, structure fire, all the above. Soon as you're clocking out, you hit that sack and you're out, right? You may not have that availability either. I was woken up very early by a phone call this morning as well. So, but I try to think of, again, the overall effectiveness and efficiency when we come to those. And so if there is that idea of, hey, this is in your possession for the next 2 days, where are we at?
And that's the thing, like, so right now, you gotta think about it, right? On your 3rd day of your tour, yeah, you may have those 24s off, but you've probably been getting, running calls all day long. So by the time you get to that 3rd day, we as captains, we make sure that, trucks are getting checked off and stuff like that. But you got to look at it in the firefighter's perspective, right? Like, they probably haven't slept and stuff like that. Now it's the 3rd time checking off the truck, doing it. It's not going to be the same as come in, spend, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and be able to take care of it. Instead, it's like with this schedule, it's more like rushed because you only have 24 hours. A lot of times you may come in and not get to check your truck off till 9 or 10 o'clock because you're running calls in the morning. And by that time, we've lost hours with admin because they have, their hours are different. So having that 2nd day, anything that we weren't able to accomplish on that 1st day, we can take care of it.
I think that's just them saying you need to work more overtime, chief.
What's overtime?
No, I understand. I just, when we come to, obviously when we come to an agreement, not only for myself and, I'll say first and foremost, I ask a lot of these questions for myself. But it's also for the record. Like, so when we talk about this, let's say Lamar does switch to 4896 a year from now, when it's being asked, right, I want to make sure that we cover the basis, do our due diligence on both this side as well as what is needed in the field, so that it is properly communicated, not only to the taxpayer, but to, to everyone and anyone that would have questions or oversight.
So one thing I will add about this schedule
Mhm.
is the friends that I have that are in the fire service who switched to this schedule from a different type of schedule.
Mhm.
No department has ever gone back to their other schedule. So again, that's why this is now becoming the new industry standard. Is it's showing that work is getting done and then you have more time for your home life. So you got that work and home life balance going on.
Mhm.
It reduces sick time being used, reduces vacation time being used. And for the most part, it's going to reduce your overtime that y'all are paying us,
Mhm.
as well as like Vice President Ray has said, the sheet we gave y'all is just days worked. That does not include we hired someone back. We hired someone back and paid them not only overtime, but step up pay because we hired them back for an engineer slot
Sure.
or we hired them back for a captain slot.
Mhm.
So again, these numbers will go up. The problem, like Chief said, with STW, we can't differentiate what that position was.
Mhm.
So again,
Well,
that's
let-
where it's
Let me
going to
rephrase,
save.
somebody smarter than me with STWs gonna have to try to figure that out because I couldn't. If it's possible, I don't know that it is possible.
Mr. Knable, you came on screen for a second. Were you going to add something, sir?
No,
Okay, my apologies, my apologies. There, you just said something, Chandler, and it is in the 4896 feasibility report under 4896 financial. It talks about that with this, the modified 56-hour work week scheduled or 112 hours every 2 weeks. This equates to 2,912 per calendar year for operations personnel. By adopting 4896 rotation line, personnel would be giving up their Kelly day, which would reduce the amount of overtime that the city must pay out. Research has also shown, as mentioned previously, that overtime costs see a significant drop to members not having sick time as often because they are better rested before coming to work, which in turn reduces the need for recall and overtime. The proposed schedule would see members of the Lamarque Fire Department working a 53-hour work week, 106 hours per pay period. This equates to 2,756 hours per calendar year for operational personnel. Per the current collective bargaining agreement, any shift worked outside of regularly scheduled hours will be paid overtime. Walk me through the reduction of overtime. That is what we have before us today. But walk me through the reduction of drop to members not having sick time.
So currently right now, if I have someone off on Kelly, like my shift, I have 9 people on my shift right now because well, we just hired, I'm sorry. I have 10, but prior to the yesterday, I had 9 people. Out of that 9 people, every day someone has to be on Kelly Day. That drops me to 8, which is our minimum staffing,
Mhm.
which means after that person goes on Kelly Day, I cannot allow anyone to take vacation. One of the loopholes is you take sick time.
Sure.
By law, by our CBA and city policy, department policy, I cannot ask why you're taking off for sick time, and I cannot require a doctor's note until 48 hours.
Correct.
So that's how some people can get off if they need off, mental health day, whatever you want to call it. And I have to call back overtime.
Mhm.
Now, eliminating the Kelly day, that reduces the call-offs, that reduces one person having to go home. Sometimes two people have to go home a day. That reduces me having to call someone in or telling somebody, hey, can you please just work your Kelly day? You're going to get paid the overtime. So that's where you're going to see the
I
reduction.
guess, how do I see the reduction in sick time at that point?
That allows if someone
Somebody can still take sick time under 4896.
yes, they could
You
still
see the
take sick
reduction in
time.
Taking this.
It's not used as frequently.
Is that a good thing?
I mean, yeah, I would think so.
I mean, my personal opinion, with a 4896, when you work your 2 days, you have 4 days off to get your, get rest, get mentally prepared for your next tour. Again, with our tour right now, yes, you may be off 24 hours, but a lot of times, especially people that live 45 minutes away from here, they're not getting home till 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. And they probably ran the whole entire night, haven't slept anything. And let's be realistic here. Are you really with a family with kids and stuff like that? Are you going to sleep at 8 o'clock at night? No. So you're probably going to go to sleep
Sounds good though, doesn't
it does sound good. But let's be like, you haven't slept that whole night.
Mhm.
Come home at 9:30, 10 o'clock. Have you really wind down? No. Then you got your family, you got your kids. You're going to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. And guess what? You still got to wake back up, go back to do it again and do the same thing. And then again, you still have to do it again.
Mhm.
And then I think this gives you an actual, it gives you a recovery time mentally and physically, which you need. When you lose the whole night of sleep, it's hard. It's hard
It
when you
is,
go
you're
back
right.
and then you gotta kind of balance your life. And I think that's where people are like, you know what, I'm not rested. I'm probably gonna take this day off because I don't feel like going in tomorrow. I haven't slept or anything like that. It's where I think that's where
Exhaustion.
Exhaustion.
Exhaustion being defined as uh infirmary.
Yeah.
Because if you're so exhausted, you can't do your duties, it's a sick day.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
that's what we're getting
Exactly.
at.
And you got travel time.
And that I get. Okay. What I don't get is how it reduces sick time. Because even if you go to 4896, you still get sick days. You
Yeah.
still get sick days. You still get sick days. And so does everybody else.
Yes.
And I understand, right, the break of natural attrition of getting 4 days off
Yes.
and then coming back on to your next tour. If 2020 taught us anything, right? I'm sorry.
Are you asking if that would change our accrual rate? The 4896? How many hours?
I think based upon this, there is no change with your accrual rate based upon what I figure out. Yeah. And so I guess what I'm understanding is if you're saying we're taking our sick days less because we got more days off, right? We've got more time to rest and we've got more time to come back. You still accrue them. You still get paid out. If anything, the city pays out more because of that shift change. Because you accrue them and don't use them. That's the distinction that I'm making.
But if you were to use them, you're causing overtime. If they were to pay you out, if the city was to pay you your sick time, you're getting paid regular time, to where if our firefighters are just taking them and causing overtime, now you're paying time and a half instead of paying regular.
But you don't get to make that distinction because you can't ask them why and you can't ask them for what or whatever. He made that. So my point is even under a 4896, I'm a firefighter, I'm an engineer. Oh, Cap, I'm sick. I just threw up in the bathroom. I gotta go home.
Yeah.
You can't say anything.
Yeah.
They still come off. So instead of a 48 schedule, they worked 30 hours, right? You've got to bring someone in at that 30-hour mark to then finish out the rest of their tour and then potentially be covering shifts on their 96 hours off.
Yeah. the true nature of someone becoming physically ill is still gonna be there.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't control that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's the only distinction that I'm making is because when it talks about reduction of overtime, that I get, that I understand. Reduction of sick time, I disagree with because it is still there.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
no,
I'm
absolutely.
not trying to pick
Absolutely.
apart the argument. I'm just, again, I guess I am trying to pick apart the argument, but the overtime, sick time, vacation time, right? Because if you're mandoed, you can't take vacation. If you're sick, you're sick. And you just said that's a way for people to get around. Well, I can't come in, I'm exhausted and this, that, and the other. I just want to say there has to be an asterisk on sick time to say it doesn't go anywhere. The accrual is still there. The bank is still there, regardless of whatever shift. You could run 12-hour shifts, but your sick time is still there.
Absolutely.
I'm not countering with a 12-hour shift. Let me make that distinction either.
No, so
Yeah.
one of the thing is it's not talking about we're gonna drop our accrual or none of that.
Mhm.
A lot of the research from other departments who went to this, they saw less usage, less people calling off
Sure.
for sick time.
And I think that is great when it comes to a day-to-day shift operation, right? But if I'm the kid with the checkbook, that's more that I have to pay out. Because if you're not using your sick time, you're still paid for them.
Mhm.
That's the only distinction that I'm making, right? So if your firefighters are off the 96 hours, there is, rather than just a day off or 36 hours off, or however it works in your scheduling, there is a definite plus to be rested, to be having time off tour, to better prepare for the 48 that you're coming back. The distinction that I'm making is, and even to your point then, is it's still there. If you're using less of it, you're banking more of it. And if you're banking more of it, that is an unfunded, not maybe unfunded, but it is a liability for the city to cover, because if Martinez has 500 hours of sick time versus someone who has 100 hours of sick time, the payout is different. That's the only distinction that I make. I have to cover both tabs, right? I'm just, if more people are accruing more and more and more sick time, because again, it's a better schedule. They're rested, they're healthy, they're sharp, all of the above. That's all good. I'm just talking again, 4896 financial section. That I'm trying to make that distinction when it comes to, again, not even a budget planning for this year, but a budget planning for
So
5 years from now.
in my personal opinion, like if right now, right, even if there was a drop in sick time, I feel like the city's still gonna save money, because right now with our schedule right now, if they use sick time, right? Most of the time is getting paid at time and a half, no matter what.
Sick time is getting paid at time and a half?
Because there's overtime for the overtime because of the
Mhm.
Kelly days. So
Mhm.
with a lot of times to where 4096, if somebody did use sick time, that's where that Kelly day spot, that firefighter that's always gone, we have that extra cushion to be able to be like, okay, he called in sick. We don't need overtime.
Right, because you would normally be paying the guy the sick time, but then paying the guy to come in and replace him to fill the slot from the staff.
And that's where that Kelly day spot comes in so clutch for that, because we have that extra cushion, not only for limiting overtime, but also to assist on fire operation grounds and everything. So, I mean, I feel like people will always, that you're always gonna have people sick, the kids sick and stuff like that. But going to 4896, we'll have that coverage to not have to pick up overtime.
Sure, makes sense. Thank you for pointing that out as well. That's, again, where I'm
Yes,
trying to
sir.
wrap my head around.
Yes, sir.
Another caveat to that is if Captain Reyes has 400 hours of sick time, and Captain Martinez has 900 hours of sick time.
I'll have a heart attack and then,
They only pay out by contract, they're only allowed payout of 230 hours. So they don't get any firefighter, any member of the fire department who has more than 230 hours upon separation. They don't get that. It's gone. The city is only required to pay out up to 230 hours of sick time. And generally you see people calling in sick on their second and third day of their tour before their 4 days off because of physical fatigue and mental fatigue. And so by only having to work 48 straight, you'll see less people call off. You'll see less people call off.
in turn, the argument is that I'm saving the time and a half for having to pull in an overtime for said
Correct.
shift.
Absolutely.
Because historically, the people who call offs generally happen on your second or third day. When your first day you ran, 18 calls in a 24-hour shift, and you went home, you had to take care of the kids, you really didn't get any days. You can't help if you come to work and somebody cooks a bad meal and you wind up with food poisoning and have to go. That you can't help.
Tell me what shift that is so I can.
What it does decrease is the amount of scheduling call offs being, it decreases the workload on the scheduler to maintain minimum staffing.
Okay.
Because less people are calling off on their second or third day because they work 2 days and then they go home and they get rested, as opposed to working a day. And I'm saying this, I love the 9-day rotation. That has been my jam for 30 years. But I'm not the guy working this shift anymore. If I had my way, we would stay on the 9-day rotation because I love that shift. But call volumes have increased. Staffing has increased. So now your middle day isn't rest, but you're more tired on your third day, your middle day of shift, which would be technically the third day of a 5-day string, than you would be if you just worked 2 days straight and went home. So decreases carelessness, decreases back injuries, decreases.
I do have, I guess, a question in regards to the current 9-day rotation and then moving it to the 48-96. You work 24-hour shifts. Obviously, you don't sleep 12 of those hours, right? When we think of a 24-hour period, you're catching calls, you've got responsibilities, all of the above. How does that balance sleep time changing from a 9-day rotation to a 48-96?
Are you asking at the station?
Yes, sir.
So, honestly, that's going to be in my opinion, at the captain's discretion. One, we're going to take care of our people.
Sure.
I know if on my first day, my guys ran all night long, then the next day, hey, we're going to get up. You're going to do whatever check you have to do that's mandatory. And if I see you need rest, I'm going to put you right back down. There's nothing saying that I have to keep you awake. So.
And not all are down at the same time.
No.
I'd like to make that public distinction as well, because for the public, right? Let's dream a little bit, Reyes, that everybody gets to go to bed at 9 o'clock p.m. It sounds great. But
At home or at the station?
Yeah, either.
So
It sounds great, but I think the distinction, I just want to make the public point, right? That even now, not all of your entire shift would go down at the same time.
no,
Because just because it's nighttime for the general civilian public, somebody has a heart attack at 11 p.m. I'm resting right now. And so I'm trying to make, again, that distinction.
so I'll give an example, right? Last night we had a call at 9:30. Well, once that call was done, I still had to complete my report.
Mhm.
My crew had to complete their report. I did not get in bed last night to lay my head down until almost 12 o'clock.
Mhm.
And that was one, making sure all reports were done. As the captain, that's my job. Make sure the reports were done. Our nightly duties were done. And making sure any equipment that was used was replaced.
Mhm.
So I went to sleep at 12 o'clock.
Mhm.
I was up this morning at 5:30 running another call.
Mhm.
Whenever we say, I put the guys down or whatever, yes, they may be asleep. That does not mean I'm taking that ambulance out of service.
Sure.
As soon as those tones go off, we're waking up, we're going on those calls.
And last night, although it is your example, you could have had an auto accident or an auto ped accident at 3 a.m. no matter what. So even if you lay your head down to your example at midnight, but those tones go off.
Yeah.
2:59,
We're up and going.
you're up and going.
I mean, there's some days where I get maybe an hour of sleep because we go to a call, come back, do what I need to do. I lay down for
Mhm.
maybe an hour. I'm right back at it again because we're on another call.
Yeah.
Our call volume's increasing.
Mhm.
There's going to be parameters in place where, yes, we're working 48 hours, but we're not keeping them up for 48 hours.
Mhm.
If they need rest, they're going to get rest.
Mhm.
And also, so you have an engine crew, right? So typically, unless it's a fire or, a fatality on the freeway or hazmat, major gas line leak, typically the medic units have a longer turnaround because they have to go to the hospital.
Okay.
This is where if the medic units are out all night, we have staff on the engine that we can rotate.
Mhm.
So that medic unit that just stayed up all night long, we can rotate them with some fresh bodies from the engine. So we have that leeway to be able to move personnel.
Yeah, we have a lot to work on in those type of questions. Not so
That's
we're gonna have to
actually
get
the
those answers.
benefit to all of our personnel being fire and EMS certified. Is
So,
being able to swap them on, being able to swap off the medic units.
So for the sake of
yeah.
argument, fire EMS, firefighter, EMS, they can interchangeable. But if they're both having to go down, then you have potential gap, is what you were saying.
No,
No, we
so-
don't have a gap because
Okay.
everybody has. We can change out from the fire truck to the ambulance.
On personnel.
yeah, so
Correct.
right now, right, let's say perfect world, I'm fully staffed. I have 4 people on my engine. That's a driver, a captain, 2 firefighters in the back, and I have 2 people on the ambulance. So 6 in total, right? So my first day, all right, you 2 are on the ambulance, you 2 are on the engine. My second day, hey, you 2 on the engine, you're now on the ambulance, you 2 on the ambulance, you're now on the engine.
Mhm.
Granted, the ambulance runs more calls. So those guys that are on the engine, right, that I swapped off, I could put them down to rest. You still have your captain and engineer up working and doing whatever.
No.
Now, if we
and
catch a call, they're getting up and they're going with us.
I was
but
about to
it
say,
allows-
how does that work when you catch a call and both have to roll? Both have to roll.
We go.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
just want to make sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Because there are certain things. The heavy. Advanced life support. That the box cannot, correct?
no. So everybody is certified. The only difference between my engine and that ambulance is my engine, I don't carry narcotics and I cannot transport you to the hospital. Other than that, I could do everything an ambulance does
Okay.
off that engine.
Is that the same the other way? Obviously not putting out a structure fire, but the reason I ask is because of calls that take, and why would they require both a heavy and a box?
Wrecks, gas leaks with potential,
But even just an EMS call at someone's
so
house.
chest pains, unconscious, cardiac
Okay,
arrest,
so, but why is that?
because the nature of the call. So if it's something that says an overdose unconscious, we
Mhm.
want that extra personnel, right?
So,
Because
okay, so it's not about the truck itself, it's just about the number of people.
yes,
So in your argument, right, you got 2 on the box, 4 on the heavy. in that argument, could, and again, we're kind of dreaming here, but could that be done if there's three on the box?
So.
I'm trying to make that, because I
The-
know
the-
that
so-
y'all have
so-
certain
so-
calls where you go both.
So the
routes.
reason you wouldn't want to put the third on the box,
Mhm.
then we have a happy balance, right?
Mhm.
If you take that third off to pump her onto the box, well, if that ambulance is a UTMB Galveston for a transport
Mhm.
and we drop a structure fire and
You want all
the
hands on
little
deck.
kid is in the house,
Mhm.
we want that extra personnel.
Sure.
So, but that's the reason most of the time the engine rolls with them is if it's of a serious call. If they're unconscious and say they're a bariatric patient, they're.
And I guess that was my initial question, the advanced life safety techniques, but it's not because of training, it's because of the number of people.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving someone. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
The
Makes sense now.
engine, you're getting more personnel. So now instead of I'm sending two people who have to do a CPR, right?
Mhm.
Well, everything that goes into a CPR, you gotta pump chest, you gotta push cardiac drugs, you gotta secure an airway. You want two people to do that, you have to carry them.
Mhm.
Versus if I send an engine along with them, okay, now, yes, I have 6 people here. Well, I can have 3 people doing this, while the other 3 people are, 1, consoling family,
Mhm.
right? 2, making sure the scene is safe for my guys, especially as a captain, because overall I'm in charge of their safety. So now I can make sure, hey, my scene's safe for these guys, and we can obtain their information as well as whatever other medications they may be on. That's going to help these guys who's providing the care to them. So that's more people on a scene. That's more care being provided. Not only now am I able to provide care for this patient, I can console their family. I can walk them through, because if you ever go on
You're not doing chest compressions and having,
and family
Where-
watching it.
yes,
I can
well,
take
and
them
that's,
to the next
and I
one.
guess that's where I'm getting at is you're doing chest compressions on a teenager whose mother is on scene and is unconsolable, rightfully so, but is trying to grab onto,
Yeah.
like it affects it. And that's where I was trying to.
We have more
to
people
understand.
now.
Yeah.
We can secure it.
Okay.
We can talk to that mother and calm her down.
And plus, we're in our engine, we leave there and there's that wreck on the freeway, there's that next structure fire, there, your truck ready across the street.
Mhm.
And the thing is, like, so if we look based off of these numbers, right? So this is Kelly days, people worked overtime, right? So what this means is they work 3 days in a row,
Mhm.
right? So 72 hours
Mhm.
to where going to the 4896, it's actually for a lot of us is a blessing because you're not working 72 hours straight.
Mhm.
It's 3 days gone, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. So, and I think, especially moving over, the way we were thinking about doing, which we still got to sit down with, obviously, Chief, is the way we're going to do overtime is not going to allow for.
Someone to have to work a
Ridiculous.
72 hour.
And I guess that's kind of where I'm getting as far as the overall question of 4896, because Monday, Tuesday means Wednesday, your tour ends, you start rolling into your 96. If he's scheduled to come in Wednesday, but does not, who covers that?
So this is where we're still gonna do it. There's still most likely, we again, pending the approval of the chief, we have to sit down. The way we were looking at it is, say you would be scheduled to either work the day before you're scheduled to come in or the day after you're scheduled in. So there is still no matter what you do, there's still gonna be the potential of a 72, but it's cut in half. So now.
What's cut in half? The
The
potential?
potential for
Okay.
72, because now if it's AA, BB, CCC, right? B would be in charge of covering A's last day. So B shift has rest 3 days and would come in for A shift's last day. So they got to rest to do that 72 hours. The potential would be at the end where if you got Mando, but this is where, we would coordinate, right? Like, hey, you have the first Mando day, this person has the second Mando day, but it is cut in half to where right now, every single time
I
you're
would
working
like,
a 72.
I would like to see preliminary documentation on our next meeting of that.
Okay.
Uh, And I hate to crude the idea behind that, but you're holding your shield to the one that stands to your side. And so on and so forth, right? I'm quoting 300, but the whole point is B shift in your argument is helping to alleviate A.
Yes.
C is helping to alleviate B. A then comes back to alleviate C, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth, and the green grass grows all around,
Yes.
right? And so, like, in that understanding, obviously I get it, is you're always helping the shift
Yes.
behind you with that, but I would very much like to see at least a draft or preliminary of that on paper.
So one of the things I will add is, again, if we do go to the schedule, we do eliminate the Kelly days,
Sure.
which means now, and we hired the engineers,
Mhm,
which means now is if I call off as a captain, right?
mhm.
Well, that engineer can step up into my role. They have been trained them. They have the certifications that were required of them put out forth by chief as requirements to do that role, to step up into my role. So again, there's that possibility that if I call off, we're not calling back the overtime. Because we're at 11 shift now. My minimum is 8. If I get rid of the Kelly day, that allows me to, one, allow 2 people off and still have that one for sick. I'm at 8 now. Or, okay, I allowed 3 people off and okay, someone calls off sick, then maybe I have to bring back.
Mhm.
Again, these are going to be growing pains.
Sure,
We're
yeah.
going to, what if we finalize this and we say yes, then this is something we're going to have to work on policies for, on how many people we can allow off versus right now, I can allow 1 person off.
Mhm.
Can we get a 5-minute caucus?
I'm sorry.
We get 5 minutes.
Sure.
We can discuss some
Absolutely.
things.
So at this point, we will move to a caucus. We will be coming back in 5 to 10 minutes. And we'll be back shortly. Thank you. right, thank you, thank you. We are back from our caucus, still on item 5.1 of negotiating economic and non-economic terms of the fire CBA agreement. Where we left off was, again, this discussion of 4896 when it comes to that, and I hate to talk it to death, but I think that, you know, there's obviously the understanding of scheduling and preparing a few things for the overall understanding for not only administration, but the public and council when it comes to this shift change as a whole. So thank y'all again for that time discussion, that 4896. At this point, is there anything about that schedule change that y'all would like to add?
Not in any great detail in particular, but as you mentioned, overall, I believe that some of these policies and some of these things that we're gonna have to change and do that are gonna come with it are just sort of unforeseen and unknown until they sort of arise.
Okay.
You know, and
Sure.
because I think Vice President Reyes has worked for it and President Taylor that do for it. I never have.
Mhm.
I'm not well versed in
Mhm.
what all potentials are gonna be there. We could talk to schedules for a
Yeah.
good while.
Yeah.
But I simply don't know enough that this is exactly what's going to happen.
Well, and also our fire chief, Chief Merriman has worked 4896. He's very knowledgeable at the 4896. So I'm sure, were you there when they did the shift change? So he was there during the process of Webster changing to the 4896. So I'm sure he knows it probably better than we do.
Mhm. And I think, you know, obviously to your point, Mr. Martinez, that some of it has to come up, right? You don't know what you don't know. And so I'm just trying to mitigate what we don't know, at least on this side of the table to make sure that we're not having to take money from somewhere else with unforeseen costs that we would not have seen. So again, I thank y'all for that. The other aspects of packet 4, I think, are pretty straightforward when it comes to everything in packet 3. Again, it is very straightforward. We did discuss the quartermaster fund of unused boot allowance rather than returning to general funds, but to be utilized for uniforms, belts, pants, polos, all of those aspects, rain gear. When it came to those, Chief Merriman did explain that a lot, and so I have information with that. Yes, Chief.
During the current fiscal year, we're not talking about
Rolling
it
over, correct. Thank you for that distinction. During the current fiscal year. I think packet 2, again, pretty straightforward. We have gone through, and I know I've probably bored y'all with some of my questions when it comes to packet 1, but it is, again, when it comes to the idea of the idea behind the breakdown of all of these things when it comes to what we currently have, how our fire department is currently growing to what will be needed in the future. And so with the answering of those questions, as far as what is independent, such as that hazmat that we discussed today, as well as what is non-compounded when it comes to instructor, officer pay, but also understanding the overall concept of the ask from the union is pretty straightforward for me.
So I kind of want to elaborate on the hazmat tech and hazmat incident commander. So being a hazmat tech, right now we don't have a hazmat team. So we would have to solely rely on, you know, either League City, which most of those are volunteers, or Harris County hazmat, or Fort Bend County hazmat, or Houston.
So there's no division of hazmat in Galveston County?
League City has like a few guys, they're volunteers, right? So you may get them, you may not.
Sure.
There's not a dedicated division of hazmat. Tech City has a hazmat truck, but those guys are all firemen. They don't staff it. The only staffed hazmat trucks in the area are Corbin County Fire Marshal's Office Staffs 1, Houston Fire Department, and Harris County Fire Marshal's Office Staffs 1. The League City one is also, it's not a dedicated hazmat unit.
And being a hazmat technician, when those units arrive, what is the biggest downfall in every operations? Manpower. Well, if you're not a hazmat tech, you cannot put a level A, level, you can't perform those duties
Mhm.
unless you're certified. So
Sure.
that would allow our members to be able to become manpower when it comes to operating any hazmat operations, to where right now we would be more of doing a 360 perimeter and doing a shelter in place, finding out what chemical is going on, what's the dangers of it. And then hazmat incident commander, the difference with that is there's a different way to run a hazmat scene than there is a regular any other scene.
You're both.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for explaining that,
Yes, sir.
because I have this beautiful spreadsheet in front of me. And whereas we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 current hazmat techs, you're the only one that is a hazmat incident commander.
You have to set up decons. You have to notify different agencies.
Mhm.
Running a hazmat scene is it's kind of the same breakdown, but there's a lot of more things that go into a hazmat scene that you have to follow along.
Makes
Like, for
sense.
instance,
Yeah.
you cannot go into a hazmat scene without preparing a decon.
Well, and you're
It's
not gonna
involved.
treat one hazmat the same as you would the next.
Exactly.
And so, one, I thank you for making that distinction, but yeah,
And you have to, like, even for law hazmat scene, you have to have a safety.
Mhm.
Can't get around that. To where in other scenes, if you have the manpower and you're able to do it, you can put a safety hazmat. It's against the law. You have to have a safety.
okay.
So there's a lot of distinctions between those two, and I just want to clarify that.
Well, on my spreadsheet, I would say that you're the one to clarify that. So I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Were there any other distinctions when it came to packet 1 that we have asked or discussed? I know that I had some questions when we started this meeting as far as, again, the addition of certain certifications, obviously in conjunctions with TCFP, but just trying to get an overall understanding of each of those. I just wanted to, I think I've asked a lot of my questions. I just wanted to make sure that we have, an overall understanding when it comes to if there's any questions, but it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, just the few things that I had questions about is what is independent, what is, compounded and things like that. So,
Sure. We're good.
okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 5.2, which is going to be setting our next date and time. I like to take this time that I believe is next time is our third.
Fine.
It's our third and final, so that anything economic or non-economic from either side, that would be the time to bring that. And I'm fine if we go ahead and try to bring and schedule that now, if y'all want.
So we picked up 4 days. I don't know if any of these work. It would be July 3rd, 8th or 10th. Yeah. July 3rd, 8th or 10th. We had the 4th, but it's 4th.
So 3, 8, 10.
Yes, sir, of July. Yeah, I was like.
Eight, 10, 8. 8, 10, or
No go.
in the words of Randy Jackson, American Idol, that's a no for me, dog.
What about the third, man?
I think that it could be appropriate for the third. The life, life, life and liberty is the fifth. We're off the fourth. The third makes sense. There's something on my schedule that I don't know what it is. If I'm being honest, but I think tentatively we can schedule July 3rd. That's a Thursday. Oh, okay.
What about the 10th? July 10th, is that? Oh, and that's not go too.
Yeah. And I'd rather us not push to 17 or anything like that. So why don't we just say tentative July 3rd? If there's any changes that would have to be made, we'll give everybody ample time for that. We don't want to schedule a sick day, right? And we got to call in people for overtime. Are y'all fine with earlier in the morning on that day, just so that we can, again, there's a lot that has to do with life and liberty. I know both from a safety standpoint with y'all as well as from administration. Why don't we just call it, why don't we call it 9 a.m.? Fantastic. Any other questions about dates, times, all the above? Well, Mayor Bell or Mr. Knable, are there any additional questions that you have at this time, if you're still online?
I don't have any.
Thank you, sir. At this point, we will be adjourned. I thank y'all for your commitment to your members as well as to the overall mission that we're trying to accomplish. See you soon. Have a great day.